Alright, let's take a look at every Premier League club's most disappointing youngster. You know, the one that was tipped for big things, but whose career just ended up a big ball of nothing. Arsenal Jack Wilshere. Jack Wilshere's career is lying face down in a ditch. I'm sorry, but it just is. He's 27 and limping onto the West Ham bench every goddamn week. Honestly, he's going to be punted into the Championship any day now. Purely because, you know, he has hamstrings made of sticky toffee pudding. Having come through the Arsenal ranks, a club he'd been at since the age of 9, he was supposed to be the natural heir to Cesc Fabregas. There was that man of the match performance in the club's 2009 Youth Cup win, that Arsenal debut at 16, nurturing loan spells to Bolton during his teens, his impressive performances against Barcelona, making the cover of FIFA 12. This guy was supposed to be Arsenal's captain for years to come. And then everyone realised that, you know, his calf muscles were seemingly held together by sellotape, spent half the time in the treatment room and was finally dumped in 2018, a broken, beaten down shell of a man. For God's sake, he hasn't played for his country in 3 years. Aston Villa Gabby Agbonlahor. Now most of you will probably think I've just drank a bucket of toilet water or something, because clearly I'm not thinking straight. Gabby Agbonlahor is a man who's made nearly 400 appearances for Aston Villa, spanning 13 years. How was this man a disappointment? Well, let me tell you this. Had Villa kept the standard they had when this guy was a teenager, you know, regular top half finishes, then there's not a chance at a cat's kidney that he'd have kept his place up front. His entire time at Aston Villa has coincided with that club slowly disintegrating before our very eyes. Having netted on his debut at the age of 19, the media were already tipping this man for international stardom. Big money moves to Champions League clubs. Right, well here's the reality. 3 England caps, 10 seasons where he didn't hit double digits in the league, 7 seasons where he scored less than 5, and the fact that this is a man who relies on sheer pace and yet seemingly chose to spend his free time eating anything that moved. Absolute disappointment. Bournemouth Sam Surridge. Maybe it's a bit mean to write off Sam Surridge so young, considering he's only just turned 21, but still. Alright, he's been at Bournemouth's academy since he was 14, okay? And he was always tipped to make a big breakthrough into the first team. Had Bournemouth stayed slumming it in League 2, he probably would have. But no, there's been 5 separate loan spells, none of which saw this striker score more than 8 league goals, and some of those were in the goddamn conference. You have to think if he was actually any good, he'd have managed more than 8 in 41 games for Yeovil Town in goddamn League 2. Brighton Ben White. Ben White was an up-and-coming defender at Brighton. Technically he still is, but I mean he's running out of time. He spent the last 3 seasons out on loan and hasn't played a single minute of football for Brighton. Considering their late season collapse earlier this year, you know, like conceding 5 at home to Bournemouth, Jordy, if he was that good, he'd have been drafted into their squad this season. Not spat on loan to Leeds. I mean, if Dan Burn can do it, Burnley Kyle Lafferty. Am I being unfair to Kyle Lafferty? Maybe. Look, the lad has gone on to have a decent, if pretty random career. For Christ's sake, he has more than 60 caps and actually played the Euro 2016. He's done alright. But not so much for Burnley. Tipped as a promising youngster coming through the ranks, he scored 10 goals in 89 games, was spat out to Darlington on loan before being flogged to Rangers. A lot of fuss about nothing. Chelsea Carlton Cole. Christ, I could be here all day with Chelsea. Gail Kakuta definitely deserves a shout, considering he nearly got Chelsea slapped with the goddamn transfer ban in 2009. They never learn, do they? Let's go back about 15 years though. Carlton Cole. This was just unfortunate for him. Had Roman Abramovich not pumped half his wealth into the club and Chelsea remained a mid-table team, then yeah, maybe Cole would have lasted a bit longer at Stamford Bridge. But no, the former youth product, who made 16 appearances during the 02-03 season, was quickly squeezed out and dumped on West Ham's doorstep in 2006. I say he disappointed Chelsea fans, but to be honest, do you think anyone at Stamford Bridge particularly cared when they were signing Didier Drogba and were romping to back-to-back title wins? I'm pretty sure the career of Carlton Cole was the last thing playing on their goddamn minds. Crystal Palace Tom Soares. Many of you may not remember Tom Soares, just shows the absolute state of his career right now. Around 15 years ago, he and Wayne Routledge were the young stars at Sellers Park. Soares was a midfielder and ran the show in his debut 04-05 season, helping the club to famous wins over Spurs and Liverpool. He had a couple more seasons in the Championship and then his career died a death at the age of 22. Foolishly, the lad took a step back to the Premier League with Stoke. Yes, he won 2 penalty kicks and a 2-1 win over Spurs in just his second game, but after that, his career and promise fell off the face of the earth. 7 appearances, that's all he made in 4 seasons under Tony Pulis. There were loans to Charlton and Hibernian before getting spat out to Bury in 2012. This man was playing 4th tier football at the age of 26. He's now 33 and stuck on the bench at Stevenage. Lad, what happened? Everton Jack Rodwell. How on earth has Jack Rodwell managed to bluff a move to Roma? One of the weirdest transfers I've ever seen in my entire life. Did they not see him having to be practically begged to leave Sunderland? Did they not see the 2 years of failing to win a single goddamn match? What the hell? The thing is, he was a massively promising talent at Everton once upon a time, making his under 18 debut at just 14, his reserve team debut at 15, became the club's youngest representative in Europe at just 16, his first Premier League goal in a 3-1 win over Man United. This man was a future £50 million player, except no, now I wouldn't even offer 3 Kit Kats and half a packet of Monster Munch for the poor fella. So I don't know what Roma think they're doing. Leicester, Max Gradel. Yeah, I think I'll go for Max Gradel. A promising wing wizard in the Leicester Academy, back then when he'd been offered trials by Arsenal and Chelsea, but nah, he never amounted to much of the king power. 27 games in League 1, just the 1 goal before being sold on to Leeds. Not great. Liverpool Jordan Ibe. I was torn between the two Jordans. I mean, not only has Roster's Liverpool career ended without a fuss, now his hopes of playing top flight football ever again look increasingly remote. Now he's only 23 on the books of Rangers and stuck on loan in League 2 of Fleetwood Town. It's not a good sign, lads, but I'm going to go with Jordan Ibe instead. 4 years ago, when Raheem Sterling stormed off to Man City, Liverpool fans tried to convince themselves that, they already had a better prospect than Ibe. It's a bit like getting dumped by your supermodel girlfriend and then just trying to console yourself by pretending that you already have a more attractive one waiting in the wings for you, when in reality it's just your cousin in a wig. How Bournemouth were ever tricked into paying £50 million for this man, I have no idea. He has no end product. Actually, this is the same club who were duped into paying £20 million for Dominic Solanke, so maybe it's making a little bit more sense now. Bournemouth are stupid with money. Ibe was 23, stuck on the Bournemouth bench, and has just 3 Premier League goals to his name for his entire career. Lads, Sterling is able to hit those numbers in just 10 minutes. Man City, Michael Johnson. There were a few candidates for Man City. Kelechi Iheanacho says hello, but you can't look past Michael Johnson, can you? Hailed as the next Stevie G when he was breaking through under Sven-Göran Eriksson, that teenage midfielder then ran into injuries, personal problems, and was forced to retire at just 24 years of age. Poor fella. Man United Ravel Morrison. I feel like I talk about this guy in nearly every goddamn video these days. We all know what Sir Alex Ferguson said, that Morrison was the best young talent he'd ever seen. Maybe if he kept his head screwed on, the former Old Trafford wonder kid would have actually gone on to have a half decent career. But no, there was the off-pitch problems, his moves to West Ham, the 6 years worth of pointless loan spells, and then getting dumped out to Sweden. This is a man who sadly will never realise that potential. For Christ's sake, he was supposed to turn out a better player than Paul Pogba. What happened, lad? Newcastle Andy Carroll. I know that he's returned a golden god, but if Newcastle fans were honest with themselves, they'd have felt disappointed by how this guy turned out. He was the closest reincarnation of Alan Shearer the Geordies could find. A local lad, big and strong number 9, powering home 17 goals in the Championship and then 11 top-flight strikes before Christmas 2010. There was that England debut in November. This was supposed to be the city's new local hero. And then he was sold to Liverpool, where his career dried up like a wet fish. He's never hit double digits in the league since, spent most of his 6 years at West Ham on the treatment table, and now he's back at Newcastle at the age of 30. Let's be honest, he's lucky to still be a Premier League player. Very lucky. Norwich, Jacob Murphy. You never know, Max Aarons could find himself on this list in a few years, but no. I'm going to go with Jacob Murphy. An absolute prodigy in the Norwich Academy, this winger was supposed to go on to play for England. He was part of the youth team which won the 2012-13 FA Youth Cup. He was rewarded with a 3-year contract when he was just 18. And now, 6 years later, he's already flopped in the top flight, massively flopped, and currently relegated to a succession of lower league loan spells. Sheffield United, Kyle Naughton. Maybe it's because they were both called Kyle and played full back, but I remember a time where both Naughton and Kyle Walker were held in the same esteem. They were both signed by Spurs on the same transfer window, and it was actually Walker who was the one loaned back to Sheffield United. Spurs were not willing to let Naughton go anywhere. I mean, Walker has since gone on to cost £50 million and win 2 Premier Leagues, while Naughton is 30 years old and stuck down at Swansea. Southampton, Nathan Dyer. A club with a never-ending conveyor belt of fresh young talent, there's bound to be a few duds in there. Nathan Dyer is one. He was a member of the youth team which reached the FA Youth Cup final in 2005, made his debut at just 18 years of age, was tipped for big things. I mean, I guess he did score 2 in a League Cup final and somehow lifted the Premier League, but if you're looking at his career as a whole, it definitely dried up in his mid-20s. He hasn't scored a single top-flight goal in nearly half a decade. Tottenham, Stephen Caulker. Yep, back in 2012, Stephen Caulker was a highly rated youngster, a player so good that Spurs were beginning to look like idiots for ever letting him go. For God's sake, he was a centre-back and still managed to score in his debut. Yeah, since then, 2 relegations, bench-warming spells at Southampton and Liverpool and Dundee. He spent last season in Turkey and now at the age of 27 wants to actually play for Scotland. Come on, lad. Watford, Marvin Sordell. This is just a sad tale. The man spent 5 seasons at Watford, looked like a promising young striker. He scored 12 goals during the 10-11 campaign as a fresh-faced teenager. He was even drafted into the Great Britain squad for the Olympics, and then it all fell to pieces. Depression has contributed to him falling out of football, trickling down the football pyramid and hanging up the boots at the age of 28. Let's just hope that he's found some happiness now that he's stepped away from the sport. West Ham, Reece Oxford. What happened to Reece Oxford? This was the next big thing, not only for West Ham but for England. He was a former Academy Player of the Year, made his Premier League debut at 16, where he marked Mesut Ozil out of the game. He was only the second youngest Premier League starter of all time. What a future he was going to have. Except no, he's 20 years old and has since moved to Augsburg, having played just 7 times since. Oh yeah, and you can forget about him playing for England anytime soon. Last I heard, he bit the bullet and switched allegiances to Jamaica, a decision that Wes Morgan was surely regretting in 2016. Wolves, Scott Malone. Yeah, Scott Malone was a product of the Wolves Academy. I enjoyed him when he was just 9 years old. He go on to win the Wolves Academy Player of the Season award, helping the youngsters to qualify for the Europa League. It's nearly a decade later, the first team have since qualified for the Europa League for real, while Malone is currently stuck on the Derby County bench, having never played for Wolves.